Hi everyone, my name is PK, and here I have Parul Oberai. In this episode, unfortunately, I would say we're going to discuss Parul's really negative experience with, I would say, one of the big buyer's agents in Australia. Parul is a data analytics professional. She's also got her own channel where she talks about finance and things adjacent to finance in her life. But this episode, she messaged me very kindly on LinkedIn, knowing what I do, and shared with me her experience of using this buyer's agent, which has now escalated and that she's actually got her money back. She actually had to ask for a refund. So in this episode, let's go through what her experience was. She's also going to tell you guys from her own encounters how to filter out bad buyer's agents based on her latest experience. And I know everyone or a lot of people will be watching this or listening to this. You might be considering using a buyer's agent. When you're first considering investing in property, it's really overwhelming. There's so much information. Everyone seems to be a guru, and it's kind of hard to figure out who to trust, who's who in the zoo. And because you're lacking confidence, you get to a stage where it's like, it's really hard. I just want to outsource it, right? I just want someone else to get me a good deal. That mindset is really not the right mindset, and that really primes you up to be prey, like truly like prey for a buyer's agent. And also a lot of people are really lacking time, and that's the reason they go for a buyer's agent. But once again, if you don't have time to learn, in my humble opinion, you don't have time to invest in property, because you should not gamble. You should not assume that people care about your money as much as you do. But my rant aside, which I can go on forever, I think everyone already knows it. This episode is about Parul. Parul, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're already a content creator, but still, it takes a sense of being brave to share openly and honestly your experience like this. So, on behalf of the community, I really appreciate it.
Welcome to the Oz Property Investment Mastery Podcast. My name's PK, and I help busy people build passive income by buying top 5% growth and cash flow property and build a portfolio using data without wasting months doing research, spending weekends at inspection or catching flights, or dropping $10,000 to $20,000 on buyer's agents every single time. So if you're confused, lack confidence, and just overwhelmed with all the information and marketing misinformation available online and don't know where to start, then this show is for you.
Thank you so much, PK. And I think because when I was thinking about talking about this experience, as you know, I'm a content creator myself. I have a decent to big following globally. So I thought that I have two options. Either I can go on my channel and share it, but then I was like, it might not be as targeted. And of course, your channel is purely for property investors. And I've seen you time and again talking about buyer's agents. So of course, look, there are both positive and negative sides. So I won't say that everything is purely negative. So maybe let me just start with my experience and how the journey began, what happened uh, from a context standpoint. And then, of course, I can talk a little bit about some of the things to avoid, something that I've learned the hard way. I think whatever I learned in 3 months, if somebody is listening to this, they can probably learn in 15 minutes. So I started working with this agency. It's a pretty well known one. So it's not like those small buyer agency, a pretty well known, reputed one with pretty good social media presence. So I think I also got carried away with that. I was thinking, okay, I am engaging somebody who is credible, knows what they're doing, they're pretty experienced as well. So I started engaging with them somewhere in May this year. So it's pretty recent incident. And around mid of June, I had a strategy session with them. So if anybody would have worked with a buyer agent, that's like a standard thing that they first start with a strategy session where they typically try to define your budget. What are you looking for? What are your goals? And they just define a high level approach that, okay, these are the areas that we would be targeting, and this is how we would go. So I was pretty excited initially to begin with. I thought, okay, they know what they are talking, which is true, by the way. And I was told at that time, around mid of June, I was told that it would probably take them 2 to 3 months to secure a property, which sounded okay to me. I think it was matching with my timelines. But they also mentioned that I would hear from them every 2 weeks after the first 1 month. So I waited patiently during that first 1 month. I was probably hoping that everything is working fine behind the scenes and I was just busy in my regular stuff. Because as you also rightly said at the beginning of this discussion, that when people are engaging a buyer agent, it's generally to outsource the responsibility, which is something I learned the hard way, and I'll talk about it in a while. So I waited patiently during the first 1 month, but I think it's around that 1.5 month mark. I think when I didn't notice any progress, they usually have that portal and everything. I mean, nothing was popping in, no messages, no communication. I think I got a bit worried at that time because I was hoping everything is fine. But even though I'm not a pro investor yet, but I have a sense of when things are looking off track. So I sense that this is, not how it should be because, hey, I've been onboarded for last 1.5 months and no communication has been there. So I started reaching out to them proactively. I started asking for more updates, but also I think I started proactively doing my own research. I started studying the markets. I started understanding the trends, trying to educate myself. I think, which in the hindsight was the best decision I could have taken. But I realized that, hey, there has to be some communication with them that even if the properties are getting rejected, why they are getting rejected, are we seeing shifts in the market or if the strategy needs adjustments? Because, when you're close to that 1.5 to 2 months mark, I mean, in a normal world, it should not take that much time. And even if it
Absolutely.
went
Yeah, 1 to
wrong.
2 months, you should be getting a property, whether you outsource it or you do it yourself, like, it's enough
Exactly.
time.
Yeah. And look, I mean, there are main my main concern was communication because communication is crucial for trust, right? And engagement. They at least need to tell me why it's getting rejected, our strategy. And the only answer which I got was it takes time to secure a quality asset. Rest assured, we are doing our thing well. So I don't buy that. I mean, I need to look at what have you done in last 1.5 to 2 months. Uh, if you have rejected X properties, why you rejected? Is my strategy wrong? Do I need to focus on a different market? I think that communication piece, which was missing, I think that led to that lack of trust, for sure. But like I said, I mean, I started doing my own research because I was like, I can't really outsource this. I need better take things in my own hands and let them do whatever they are doing because they have initially told me 2 to 3 months mark. So I can't take any action that, hey, why have you not? Let them do whatever they want to do.
Mm.
But I started doing my own research. I started studying markets, understanding cash flows, how the market cycle works. But then after 2 months, still no properties were presented. And I was like, there is something definitely wrong. Either they have a lot of workload, which I know a lot of these big agencies have. They maybe they bring in a lot of clients, but then I don't know what's internally going on. So I think those lack of updates made me a bit impatient and also concerned. And then I think around the 2.5 month mark, when I really pushed them that, hey, we are coming close to that 3 month mark and nothing is being shown and this and that, I really raised it. One property then was shown to me eventually after me pushing through, and it was overpriced. The yield was a bit lower than expected. And most importantly, I think that was my breaking point with them. It had not been physically inspected despite the fact that I had clearly requested, because when I was coming on board with them, I had clearly told them that, hey, I am looking for somebody who can do the on ground inspections, who's my ears and eyes on the ground from the start. And they showed me, and I asked them that. He said, no, we have just a video walkthrough for you. Look, I mean, I totally respect the research and the data and everything because I'm myself a data person. So definitely, I mean, all in for it. Okay, but that's just one slice of the pie. Uh, if somebody is engaging, or if I am engaging a buyer's agent, then I think I want to do. I want to engage for something that I can't do myself, which is their local expertise. Uh, their understanding about the market. Somebody hasn't even inspected the property to see what is the actual condition of the property as on today. What are the neighborhoods like? Does the property need some maintenance work? And the seller who is selling, the agent, they won't show you in the video walkthrough what needs to be actually shown,
Of
right?
course.
Uh,
And you could
so
just ask them, like, if you were just relying on that, you could just ask them yourself, the
exactly,
sales agent, what's the
exactly.
value provided by the middleman?
Exactly. So I was like, who is and the standard answer I got is that, hey, the building and pest would be done. And I was like, I can't do building and pest report for 10 properties that you're going to show me, right? I mean, that's like I think it's $700 per property, I believe,
Yeah,
right?
like $500 to $800 normally.
Yeah. So let's assume on average 600, right?
Mm.
So it's I can't do that for 10 properties. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. And I think it's not just about something wrong with the property, but it's also it gives you the negotiating leverage as well. Because let's assume if something needs is not working, or the appliances are not working, the hot water is not working, or something looks off, that gives a leverage to my buyer's agent to basically negotiate with the owner, right? So that is so important to me, that local expertise, then to have boots on the ground. And look, I understand some of these borderless agencies may not have it, but I've also seen with some of the other agencies, buyer agents, they have close associations with some very trusted partners like property managers, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
who are working with them and have the best interest. So you have no mechanism in place to do the on ground inspections. And why are you charging like 15, 20,000? That to me,
How much
this
was
is
the fee that you paid, or
20,000. That was a lot. And I paid the
20,000?
initial engagement fee, which was 10,000, which was
Oh my
also a
god.
lot. Yes.
Okay.
And
And
after
was
that,
this
what
an
I
interstate buyer's agent? Like, they operate all over
yeah, yeah,
Australia?
yeah, yeah. So it's a borderless. So you can call a borderless, because nowadays we will see a lot of these borderless
Yeah.
agents. They are sitting in, let's say, New South Wales, but they are helping you buy a property in Queensland, for example, or
Mhm.
vice versa. So again, I think that for me was, I was like, Neil, no, this is not working, because it didn't build the trust, of course, from the beginning, because I'd been waiting for so long with no proper communication, but also the fact that it's not yet physically. So I basically understood their entire model by the time it was the 2.5 month mark. And I was kind of already disengaged by then, let's put it that way. Uh, and I waited another week or so, and I wrote to their sales agent, who basically onboarded me at the beginning, around that 3 month mark. And I sent a very long, detailed email about what was the expectations before I came on board, what was presented, the missed opportunity cost, because in 3 months' time, the market had moved. The
Yeah.
properties which were, let's say, 20, 30 grand cheaper were now all of a sudden more expensive. So it's not just the engagement fee, in comparison to that 10,000 engagement fee, the opportunity cost was huge,
Mm.
right? And then what happens is that once you've had that bad experience, it's so hard to trust another patient after
Anyone
that.
else, right?
Exactly. So that to me was like, I'm done with you guys. I need my refund back for so and so reasons. And I think they were trying to then um, secure me another property, saying that, oh, we are trying to work through your issues, blah blah blah, and all of that. But like I said, I mean, it's with any, it's no different in this sector, but it's in any sector. If the client is disengaged, they have already made their minds. I had already made up my mind. You can just go me find 10 properties. I'm not going to take from you, that's for sure.
Mm.
Because I already wasted my 3 months by then. And they, like I said, around they were trying to work out something, and it was around a week that they had not refunded my engagement fee and everything. So at that point, I wrote to their CEO with a formal request for a refund. I explained all my reasons in a polite manner. I mean, it's not to uh, not as a threat or anything, but just citing my feedback and everything. And the fact that, I mean, I'm a little bit more educated on the consumer rights. So I know that in New South Wales, for example, where I am, you can apply to NSW Fair Trading or others if, let's say, you haven't been given the right services or the goods and services have been not delivered to your expectations. There are consumer rights in place. So I wrote to him on Friday, one of the Fridays, and I said that if I don't get my refund initiated by Monday, I am going to be raising this with NSW Fair Trading, or I have to take other legal avenues. I've been waiting it for last 1 week. I don't have time for this back and forth. And then I said that it's in the best interest of both the parties to basically just resolve it.
Mm.
Otherwise, it's obviously a reputational risk for the organization. And all of a sudden, I think they just they just woke up, and I started receiving texts from the sales guy that, yeah, we are doing this and that. And I also received a text from their CEO. And look, this is the thing, right? I mean, there is one guy at the top, maybe a really a nice guy. I haven't met him in person, who is running the organization. Of course, people are just thinking, oh, he's the one who is running, so it must be good. But the CEO is oblivious, right, to what's happening. And he was very generous. I mean, he responded to me nicely. And did say that, hey, it would be initiated by Monday, and I would also want to hear from you what went wrong so that we can improve ourselves. Look, I don't know if that's just a thing to cover up, or is he genuinely interested, but I'm assuming he's genuinely interested. So I think that was the whole thing. And then I did receive my 10,000 engagement feedback, which is good. So it was like a free 3-month trial, I could say, where I learned a lot about the market. In hindsight, I think, I mean, I'm taking more positives from it than the negatives.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it wasn't the best of experience. And of course, I mean, I do have some key takeaways for investors who are watching this.
Yeah,
Uh,
please.
yeah, I think, I mean, I think there are key 5 things which I have learned from this experience, which I could say to anyone who is looking at having a buyer agent. Because look, there's nothing wrong in having a buyer's agent. And I know, PK, you do mention that you can do it yourself. Absolutely. Desktop based research and everything, it's very, very important. But I would say, if at all somebody is looking for a buyer agent, look at the right one who has deep local knowledge and years of experience and strong networks. Like, don't go for somebody who is, especially after COVID, there's so much flurry and influx of buyer agent with 2 to 3 years of experience. They've just done diploma and then they will become a buyer agent. Look for somebody who's a veteran, who's been in the industry, has seen the cycles in and out. Uh, the local expertise is so important, and just verify their credentials. We have these REIA or REBA credentials, which makes them, of course, more credible. And look at their social media presence. And I'm not talking about the face of the name, the real person you're going to talk with. Because with a lot of these big agencies, what happens is you're talking to somebody at the beginning, and then you're handing it over to somebody else, and then the person who is showing you the property is somebody else. So it's pretty convoluted. Anyway, so look at those credentials. Definitely look for the local knowledge. I mean, if you want to buy in Melbourne, hire somebody who knows Melbourne in and out, rather than somebody who's sitting in New South Wales just doing some desktop research and providing you properties. That's not a good.
Which city were you I don't know if you mind me asking, but which,
Yeah.
location were you targeting? Like, was your
So
buyer's
I
agent
was
looking
Yeah, so they were targeting more regional, like regional Queensland, or
Mhm.
later on they opened it to regional New South Wales and regional Victoria as well. But the lady I think who was helping me, she was in Perth. So
Right,
that was a bit
okay.
of a mismatch.
That's the thing, like, I think any business, especially a buyer's agent business, the face of the business, the CEO, that person, he or she will be on all the podcasts. Like, they're not
Yeah,
actually doing any work. Their full-time job is to go on podcasts,
correct.
YouTube, PR, this and that. You're
Yeah,
only as good as your lowest common denominator. And I mean, like you said, I think 5% of the industry are good buyer's agents. Like, that's my
mhm,
honest opinion, having known hundreds of them. Um, but I think that the problem inherent with the buyer's agent industry, and I kind of feel sorry for them, is attrition. Like,
mm,
you've got that main buyer's agent, and then he or she hires five assistant buyer's agents. And once that assistant buyer's agent knows enough, like after a year or 2 years of experience, they leave and they start their own buyer's agency. I mean, why
yeah,
would you carry on working for
yeah,
$100,000 where you could start your own and make 500,000? They use
correct,
these big agencies to learn on the job and then
correct.
leave. And so this big buyers, your CEO is like, okay, well, I trained you up. Now I got to get a fresh new graduate, someone from a
Yeah,
completely different background. So
yeah,
the people that you and I are dealing with as, let's say, potential buyers agent clients, we're dealing with like a brand new face to the industry, like
correct.
they don't really have experience. I don't know if you agree with those thoughts, or you don't
Oh,
agree, but that's
absolutely.
my
That's why I said look for a veteran who's been there for 20, 25, 30 years. And there are, okay? I mean, just a matter of, and I'm not saying they are perfect in your case, but somebody who's no longer working for that fame or money or just trying to get your attention because they have built their credibility already. They're just
sure,
trying to help you
sure.
out, um, and with the best interest at heart. So I think work with somebody who's a veteran with good credentials. Of course, it might come with a cost, but like I said, if you can't do it yourself, have to pay money anyhow. Work with
Mhm.
somebody who has that really deep local knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that you first, I learned the hard way. You first choose the market yourself, educate yourself a little bit that where do I want to buy? And then try to find a buyer agent if at all you need one in that area versus the other way around, where you bring in a buyer agent to tell you where to buy and then he
Completely
doesn't know
agree.
the market and then he or not just doing some desktop research for you and then telling you about the market. So I think one should flip the strategy a little bit. First, learn yourself where you want to buy, at least broad market level, and then engage with somebody who's local to that market.
And in that way, you have enough knowledge to also verify. Like earlier, you
Correct.
said that that deal that they presented was overpriced. And so,
Correct.
as a client, you should be able to say, okay, Mr. Buyer's agent, you're suggesting this property for $400,000. Now, I see the comparables at 380. Like, why are you proposing to buy this at 400? So, if you're talking on the same level, like
Mm,
as a peer, then they'll also kick into gear and actually do a
correct.
solid job for you. Otherwise,
You know
they'll
what?
think,
Actually,
"What
they
does
don't even
Parul
give
know?
you
Let's
that
just
much
nag
of
her off."
time. Sorry to interrupt you, but they don't even give you that much of time. Hey, this property is there. It's a hot spot. It will be taken away. We need you to tell us by evening.
Yeah,
The office. I mean, look, I need some time to absorb everything that you have provided to me. But anyways, I think I mean that's a
sure.
fast story. Like
Yeah.
I said, good learnings from there. And the second thing which I learned actually was that uh and this is just a risk management strategy. I feel that you should, if at all you are engaging with somebody, because everyone can do the talk. Okay. In the beginning, everyone will do the talk. Engage with somebody who has slightly reasonable engagement fee, because engagement fee is generally non-refundable. So in my case, the fact that I paid them 10,000 upfront, of course, I was stuck with them for 3 months. If let's say I paid them like 2,000 or 3,000, which is by the way in the normal standards. I mean, I don't know why they were charging 10,000 or even if somebody's charging 5,000 upfront fee, that's not correct because it's always performance based as compared engagement fees just to get started. So if you have somebody who is a slightly reasonable engagement fee, it's easy to just get out of it in 1 month, 1.5 months time. Not saying not a good fit, you can pull out of it quickly rather than just being stuck
Mm.
for 3 months. So that was something that if I have to really engage with somebody, of course, keeping in mind all the other parameters, I'll probably pick somebody who has a reasonable engagement fee just to test the waters for initial few weeks or a month. And you will know in first 1 month. Let me
Yeah.
tell you that
Mm.
you will know if it's a good fit or if it's just like when you go for a working for a new organization, it's just a trial period initially. So you would know in that first 1 month.
Especially the rationale, like, I think that's what kind of I picked up when you were sharing your story. I think it's fine in the first month to say, "Hey, Parul, like, we honestly haven't found any properties that meet your criteria. These are the ones that we looked at, and here are the reasons why we rejected them." And then it's like, "Okay, I know you're doing work. I know there's thinking going on behind it."
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's a trust, right? Communication builds trust. And that's what I think was my next point. I mean, because when you're onboarding anyone, and that applies to any business or any kind of industry, when you onboard a client and the client doesn't hear for first 1 month, you have built no trust with that person, right? If you're getting regular updates about, hey, we looked at these properties, this is why it got rejected, it helps me to be a bit more confident. Okay, and there's definitely something happening, even though I'm not seeing the results. So communication is very, very important. And to be very honest with you, PK, I even don't think that they did any work in first 1 to 2 months. That's just my gut feeling
I
about it.
think sorry to interrupt you. I think you probably have come to a similar conclusion is because they have so many clients. The
Yeah,
marketing engine is like humming. So many clients that they've got you in, but they still haven't satisfied the backlog. And so they've
correct.
got your engagement fee, trapped you in. They're still trying to clear, the other clients
Correct.
out of the pipeline.
Yeah. And that's why, right? I mean, like then be upfront about it. And I really like people who are upfront. I've spoken to some buyer agent in the past. They're so upfront that, hey, we are on full capacity. We can't take any more clients. I value that because, they are not setting any wrong expectations with you. So yeah, I think that's true. But another thing which I learned is that it's so important to educate yourself. Even if they're doing their work, that's fine. Just do a little bit of research on your own. Like I'm not a pro yet, okay? But I started learning about, okay, what a supply is, what a demand is, how the yield is calculated, what are growth trends, infrastructure. So I started learning myself. Um, and I'm a lot better than I was few months ago, I would say, in terms of my knowledge in education. So you can't really outsource it completely, even if you're working with the best person. You're just leaving it to chance, right? Just that, hey, somebody will come and give you the best of property. Might as well just get yourself a bit more educated as well so that you can ask the right questions to the buyer agent, which is so important. It's not to challenge them, but like to complement whatever they are doing for you.
Right.
Um, and I think lastly, like I mean, like things happen if it doesn't happen, if you're not happy, if they have not delivered. Know your consumer rights. I think people don't understand that, especially in a country like Australia where the consumer rights are so defined. Unlike back in India, for example, where I come from, there are no consumer rights. I think there's strong consumer rights here. So know that you are entitled to refunds if the service standards have not met. You can explore avenues like, for example, in New South Wales, where I am, NSW Fair Trading. Uh, there is NCAT for disputes, but I think NCAT is more for tenancy. So I think just know your consumer rights. I mean, you should know when to voice an opinion, and It's your hard-earned money. Like it was my hard-earned money. So I understand they would have done some work, but the opportunity cost, like I said, was significant to the engagement fee that I paid. So instead, they should give me back more money than the engagement fee. But I think that's the bare minimum. I felt that should be there, which a lot of people don't know. Like they are like, oh, you know what we can do. No, at least explore avenues and try to get your money back.
Right, right. Well, thank you for sharing those 5 pointers on, how people can learn from your experience, and I think the experience you had of having to wait so long and ultimately it didn't work out, the opposite can be true as well, but in a bad way. Like, sometimes a buyer's agent can buy you a property within a couple of weeks, and you might think,
Yeah,
"Oh, that's great." Like, they did a terrific job. But
correct.
you gotta check, did they buy it in a really cold market that's not
Yeah,
likely to rise? That's why it was super easy. Did they overpay? Like, this is my bugbear. Okay, fine. If you don't even have 3 to 5 hours a week over 1 or 2 months to DIY, learn and implement yourself. Doesn't take long, 3 to 5 hours a week over 1 or 2
yeah,
months. At least learn enough to check them, and like you said, not an adversarial way, but complimenting them.
correct.
It's like, "Okay, I
And a
saw."
good buyer agent will never mind that, I
Right,
tell you.
right, exactly. Like, you're suggesting that, there's no room for negotiation in this price. Like, why is that? Like, why haven't we negotiated? Or in other words, they might say, "Let's put an offer of 350." You can say, "Why not 330?" And then you'll start to they will have to work harder for you because 'cause they'll know that, okay, this is more of a clued on client, and I think that's good for everyone. You'll give a great review to
They
them.
don't like easy clients. Just bring the contract, sign. That's it.
Yeah.
Easy.
I know you have to go, Parul. One last question, I think will help everyone. When you're a new investor, let's say you pick buyer's agent number A. You've been following them for 3 months. You like them, you vibe with them, you go on their Google reviews, tons of 5-star reviews. You go on their Facebook reviews, great 5-star reviews. Everything checks out. They're posting deals, they're all
Yeah,
looking good. I assume you did this kind of due diligence when you chose your
correct.
buyer's agent. What could you have done more before you hired them to ensure that
Yeah.
this situation didn't occur?
Look, I think, honestly speaking, later on when I went on some of the forums like Property Chat, I think Property Chat was it. I think somebody had posted similar experience to mine. And I was like, and at that time, I kind of forgot in my story around that 1.5 month when I actually started doing a bit more research about other people's feedback about them. I think that's when I realized, oh my God, this sounds a bit similar to what I am going through. And I think that so do a bit more research is what I would say. And again, like I mean, look, there's no real way of testing anybody, and that's why I said pay lower engagement fee so that you can cut your losses quickly rather than being stuck with somebody by paying a higher engagement fee. I think if I were to go back, those are the two things I would probably change. Maybe I could have negotiated better with them on engagement fee. And definitely, I should have done a lot more research about other people' experiences with them.
Got it. Well, thank you so much, Parul. I really appreciate
No
it.
worries.
The community will really appreciate it as well. Like, once again, for anyone who's watching or listening, I don't want you to get the idea that this episode was there to badmouth all buyers agents.
Mhm.
Like I said, I genuinely feel about 5% of the industry is good, and I completely agree with Parul. They're normally the ones who have decades of experience and they specialize in a single location. And of course, in 2025, 2026, you can do your desktop research and then pick up the phone with property managers and get the boots on the ground reality, the inspections done. But if you don't want to do that because you have literally 0 hours in the day, then yeah, it's like expensive labor hire. That's what buyers agents are. They're not engineers or doctors or surgeons. Expensive labor hire. You can use them. Nothing wrong with doing it, but don't outsource the accountability. Don't outsource the responsibility. Accountability and responsibility is yours. Just outsource the labor, the actual physical work. That's my thoughts. But regardless of my thoughts, I'm really grateful to you, Parul, for coming
Yeah.
on and sharing. I think you'll probably save a whole bunch of people hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thank you so much, PK. It was nice chatting.
And thank you everyone for watching, listening. Hit the subscribe button, give it a like, and share this with anyone or someone you might know that is about to engage a buyer's agent. Thanks so much for this.